Finally filming. All right. Oh, it's kind of late. We're like in the middle of January and I'm just now doing this video, but you know what? It's okay. It's okay to be late sometimes. Sweater looks weird, but
We call this little number striped sweater. The best time to wear a striped sweater is all the time.
hello booktubing world. It is I, Capri Nicole, and welcome to 2019. I am super excited for this year. I'm super excited for my channel. I'm super excited for these videos, and of course some of the videos I wanted to do at the end of the year, I ended up not being able to finish them because I feel like I overpacked my schedule for the amount of videos that I wanted to do in December, and I just got overwhelmed, and then having to edit all of them and trying to get them up on time, it was just a lot. So I still have to do my favorites of 2018, which is what this video is going to be about. I have already put out my worst books of 2018 in my opinion, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave it in the description box below, but it is one of my most recent videos, so if you want to click on the videos and see me rant, then you can do that before you come here. But if you're here for all the good vibes and the positivity, then come on down, because this is the favorites of 2018. So making my favorites list, I thought it would be easy because I'm really picky with how many stars I give books. I usually don't ever that often give out 5-star reads unless I finish the book in a day and I'm engulfed in the story, so it's kind of rare. But when I found myself looking through the 80 books that I read for 2018, yes, 80, I was thinking about the feelings I had while reading the book. I was like, okay, so I got a favorites list. I got it up to like 16, and then I was like, you know what? I want to get it to 10. The number I wanted so bad was to get 10 favorites of 2018, and I got it down to 16, and I was just like, okay, maybe I'll do a favorite and then I'll do an honorable mention. But I was like, do I really want to edit 2 other videos? Not really. And I got the list down to about 13, and then I got it down to 12, and I really just could not get rid of any of the other books. Like, and technically a group of these books I cheated with because it's kind of a series, so I just bunched them all together and just said this series. So technically it's like 15 books, but you know what? We're gonna pretend that it's 12. All these books that I read for 2018 that were my absolute favorite were books that I felt the most emotion towards. And honestly, I postponed this video until the last second of 2018, and I wasn't gonna film until the end of the year, specifically because I was reading Strange the Dreamer and I thought that would end up being on my favorites list. And coincidentally, it was not. But let's start talking about these favorites from 2018 from the tippity top to the bottom. 2 of the books that I picked, I feel like I've talked a lot about in my other videos, so I put it at the bottom of my list. Let's get into the video. So my first favorites for 2018 was Behind Her Eyes, and I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. Like, I listened to this book on audiobook, so I didn't have the physical copy, but I was so engulfed in the story. It was super fast paced. It was like a thriller, mystery, psychological-esque vibe. So Louise is a single mom that has just discovered that the cute guy that she met at the bar and kissed is her very married boss, David. She takes a peek into his office to see all the perfectly displayed pictures of him and his wife Adele, and surprisingly runs into Adele shortly after. Although this marriage seems picture perfect, Louise quickly sees everything isn't so picture perfect after all. This forbidden love between her and David and secret friendship between her and Adele are the least of her worries. Following the story is a constant tug of mystery, the unknown, and although you will draw plenty of conclusions, the ending will still leave you with your mouth hanging wide open. So this book was crazy because I just wanted to listen to it all the time. I was listening to it when I was at work. I had my AirPod in, I was good to go, and I was so engulfed in the story and the characters. Like, even though Louise was a little bit gullible at some times and I really wanted to just like scream at her like, sis, what are you doing? Get it together. It still was such a good book, and it was really character driven. It made you constantly on edge, constantly wondering what was actually going on, trying to figure out what the conclusion was. And like, even when I was like 100% sure that I knew what was going on, I was just like, okay, listen to the audiobook, like, let's go wrap it up. I know what's happening. The ending just like threw me way out of the loop. Like, it was unlike anything I've ever read before. It was very different, and it was there's no way you can guess this ending. I was just so shocked. And the first time I heard about this book was watching Books and Lala, and she was actually reading the physical copy of it. She was vlogging while she was reading it, and when she got to the end, she was saying, oh, you know, a lot of people say the ending is really crazy, but I think I have it figured out. I think I have it figured out. And then when she got to the ending, her mouth just dropped. And I was just like, what is this book about? So I hopped on Goodreads, and I had to go grab that audiobook because, you know, Scribd has your girl. Okay, they have some good books on Scribd. I went and snatched up the audiobook, I listened to it, and I was so engulfed in the story. It was just so good. Such a great book. So if you want to listen to the audiobook and you have Scribd, definitely download it and definitely listen to it, because I just love thrillers because they just engulf you in stories. Like, I think thrillers are starting to become one of my favorite genres because I just read them so fast, and there's no good point to put the story down because you're just like, something's about to happen, something's about to happen. So, oh, I just love that book. I just loved it so much. So the next book that I have in no particular order on my favorites list of 2018 was A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahara Mafi, and this was one of the first books that I read by her. I loved this book, and this book I also listened to on audiobook, but it didn't change the power, it didn't change the delivery of the story. The audiobook was well done. It just, the characters were so good. I absolutely loved this book, and I didn't expect to love this book so much, but I was hoping that I would end up loving the characters. I did end up loving the characters. The main character was super sassy, and I was just here for her clapbacks. I was here for all her swear words. I was here for her intelligence, and this book was just everything. I definitely need a physical copy of this book because it's definitely one of my favorites. There were so many good quotes in this book. I just kept going on Twitter making a thread of like everything I loved that was said in this book, and so many things that helped me see the point of view of this character. This book follows a teenager in high school by the name of Shirin. In a flock of American ignorance following 9/11, she constantly is bullied because of her race, her religion, and wearing a hijab. But she's smart and she's quick to reply with colorful vocabulary. Despite her ultimate hate for school, she loves music and dancing, specifically breakdancing with her brother and his friends. And then she meets Ocean, who is kind and really wants to know who she is, but with the trauma of physical and mental attacks at school, it's hard to believe it's true. So yeah, that's a little summary of that book, but this book is really like powerful. You really get to see behind the eyes of someone who is just bullied for just being who they are and looking a certain way, and the depiction that media and social media and the internet and the news anchors and just everywhere in general puts on Muslim people and people of a certain culture or whatever. It was really interesting to me. I don't think I've ever read something like that where I felt so bad for someone, but I understood the fact that people think they know something just because of something they've seen on the internet or something they've seen on TV. They treated Shirin like dirt. They treated her like she was someone that was in the school fighting people, shooting up the school. Like, they treated her like a criminal, and she did nothing but go to high school. Like, she's a high school student, and just because she decides to wear a hijab, people made the assumption that she had some connection to the people that decided to attack during 9/11, and it's complete ignorance in Western culture, and it still is the same way to this day. It's sad, actually, and a lot of the bullying that went on in this book was hard, but it was so well done because you felt everything that was happening to this main character, and you really just want to pull her out of the story. But then she meets Ocean, and they really click, and he really likes her, and she just finds it so hard to believe because people in the school have just treated her so shitty this whole time. So it's just like a constant battle in her head of like, oh, does he really like me? Or, oh, guys like him usually don't go for people like me. Like, even though she was a strong high school student and she was like a strong character, she still constantly had that insecurity. So it was really interesting to see the play on that. Ocean as a character was also really interesting. I just loved their story. I loved the depiction of how Western society viewed Muslims at that time, and just the incorporation of music and the incorporation of dance and just everything about like high school and her parents and her relationship with her brother. It was just so well done. I absolutely loved this story. It made me cry. So many quotes in here and so many emotions that this book drew was drawn from for me. If you haven't picked up A Very Large Expanse of Sea, I definitely recommend it. It's a really well done book. A lot of people had problems with this book because they felt like the romance overtook the story behind being Muslim and being in America during that time, but I think, honestly, I think it was well balanced, and I liked the balance between her struggles and Ocean's struggles. So I love that book. I gave it 5 stars, well deserved. It was my first book by her, and I do not regret it whatsoever. The next book that I have on my favorites list for 2018 is another romance. So this one is When Dimple Met Rishi, and I gave this one 4 stars. I absolutely love this story. I was a little nervous because I thought it was going to be cheesy, a little corny, and at times it was a little cheesy, but it was like perfectly done. Like, I really just loved the characters separately and together, and just their love story was perfect. I love the culture that was incorporated in it, and it was just like such a good story. Dimple is more than ready to prove to her conventional parents just how powerful a young woman's will can be. With her passion for coding and her love for her father, she hopes to combine the two in a new project while at the InsomniaCon convention. After the surprise that her parents complied to her request to enter the 6-week campus getaway with other career-driven young adults, she quickly realizes there's a catch, and his name is Rishi. This story ties together passion, culture, and a tunnel vision mindset, but a love story that will make you swoon just a little. I thought it was just so precious, but I also we love a main character that is career driven. Like, if you give me a female main character that is career driven, I'm just like 100% here for it. And these are like young women that are going into college and have the mindset of what they want to do as an adult, and they're just like, I don't care how anybody else feels about it. I'm going to do what I have to do to get what I want, and nobody's going to stop me. And I just love the way this book depicted misogyny and society views on women and society views on women in corporate America and just women in general in business. I just like that there were small little nuggets of like information about how hard it is or how easy it is or for other people or how money is more powerful. It was just like small things in this book, and I feel like this author has a habit of doing that in a lot of her stories, but it's just like I'm 100% here for it. Like, I love a main character that knows what she wants and goes for it, but Rishi was so precious too. Like, he was just the opposite of Dimple. Like, Rishi was somebody who was just like fully into his family, fully into his culture, fully into being career driven, but he wasn't doing what he loved to do. So like, those two characters coming together and meeting each other, they kind of wore off on each other. He taught her his ways and showed her the beauty of embracing her culture and embracing her family and embracing who she was and not being so upset about her conventional parents. And she showed him how important it is to have a career that you love, and that you don't need to be 18 and have your whole life planned ahead of you. You can aspire to marriage, but you don't have to have it all planned out. So just them being complete opposites, you would think it wouldn't work when you heard about one character and then the other one, but honestly, the way they were put together and the way the story was executed was just so precious, and it was so well done, and I was just here for the characters. Like, I was 100% here for this love story. So I do need to get a physical copy, because I feel like all the favorites that I have, I should have a physical copy of them, because I'll probably end up reading them more than once. Alright, so the next book that I have on my favorites list for 2018, I'm pretty sure that you've seen a million times on BookTube. It's been floating around on almost everybody's video, but it is well deserved because this book was so good. And I listened to this one on audiobook again. I really got into audiobooks in December because my work schedule was crazy, so I was just like, why not work and read and get both things knocked out? So I did listen to a lot of audiobooks in December, which is why I had a really successful reading month. That book would be Sadie. I gave this book 5 stars because it deserved 10 out of 5 because that book was just so well done. I absolutely recommend you listen to the audiobook because the audiobook was like a different experience, especially because there's a podcast involved, so you kind of get to listen to the full cast and just how well done it was. So this book follows the story of a teenager on the brink of looking for her little sister's killer. Sadie's only known a world full of disaster thanks to her mother's drug issues and the neglect. So Sadie has always been the one taking care of her sister first and herself after. So when monsters arise and take away what she holds dear, she finds the only real relief will be bringing the person she suspects to justice for the brutal crime. This story alternates between Sadie and Wes McCrae, who is the podcast host following the journey of Sadie and her sister's disappearance. He goes through the impoverished community, unveiling all that involves Sadie and the life that she lived. The story was so good, and I just love the way that the character was executed. Again, another really strong main character, female, and just her brokenness was, you just wanted to cradle her, because there were so many things that were going on, and just so many things that were happening that I really just wanted to be by her side through this journey and just like help her through it. I talked about this book in my November wrap-up, and I said it was really hard for me to read because I have a lot of young girls around me in my family, like my nieces, family members that like little girls. With this book dealing with pedophilia, it was a little bit difficult for me to read because I wanted to fight, and I also wanted to cry, so it was just like a hard read, but it was really well done. Her journey was really well done, understanding poverty and understanding family, her and her sister's relationship, her and her mother's relationship, the dysfunction, everything about it was just so well done. And I really love the fact that they had a full cast again. And when I read the summary and I saw that there was going to be a podcast incorporated, I thought that was really strange, and I had no idea how they were going to do that. But once I started the audiobook, it was a lot easier for me to understand what play the podcast took into the story. The first one half of the story is following Sadie trying to track down this killer, and then the other half of the story is following the podcast of a guy who's following the story of Sadie and her sister, because the sister has been killed and Sadie is now missing. So it's just him following the same tracks that Sadie took after she disappeared. So just the play on both sides was really well done. The emotions in this book, it was just oh my god, everything about this book was just so good. I cried on this one too. I gave this one 5 stars because it 100% deserved it. I just love this book so much. It drew a lot of emotions out of me while reading it, but this book was just amazing. The next book that I have is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Now, I think I have a physical copy of this one, don't I? Where is it? I was not prepared. Like this is another book that's been floating around on BookTube a lot, and a lot of people have been talking about it. And when I heard like autobiography-esque kind of book, I was just like, it's not really my thing. So I kind of put off reading it. Like when I heard more booktubers talk about it, a little bit more of the story was revealed, and I was just like, I need to pick this book up. So I went and got the book because they finally got it in paperback. I was a little nervous that I wouldn't like it, but oh my god, this book was the best journey ever. Like honestly, I think this is going to be one of my favorite books like ever. It was so damn well done. I just love Auntie Evelyn. Like she just gives me life. She's sassy, she's quick, she's smart. She uses her sexuality to her advantage. She's a very powerful, driven woman. Again, driven main character that is a female. Like this is my kryptonite. A powerful female main character is literally my everything. So this book, I think I finished this book in like a day, and then it was so crazy when I finished this book because I thought she was a real person and nobody told me. So when I was reading this, I just felt so connected to her story and was just engulfed in her storytelling. I was just like, let me see some pictures of Auntie Evelyn because I want to see what she looks like. I want to see clips of her movies. I'm sitting here thinking that this is a real person. So I'm all on Google looking crazy, and then I find out that it's not even a real person. That's how well done it was. It makes you feel like it's a real person. This book follows Monique Grant, a magazine reporter who is far from well known. She's given the opportunity to do a story on one of the most scandalous actresses from the 50s to the 80s. Her name is Evelyn Hugo. She's cutthroat, fabulous, and career-driven, and has been married 7 times. No matter how many stories were told back in the day, none of them have the depths she is willing to give Monique. Because upon her arrival, she lets Monique know this is no simple magazine entry. She wants Monique to write her life story. She's entrusted Monique with this story, and everyone wants to know the same thing. If Evelyn was married 7 times, who was the love of her life? So, yes. This book goes through 7 marriages, like 30 years, and a whole bunch of scandals, Hollywood drama, Hollywood corruption, just Hollywood fabulousness. The depiction of fame in this book was 100% perfect. The love in this book was beautiful. The friends in this book was beautiful. Sexuality in this book was so well done. Oh my god. Oh my god. I was underlining everything. I wanted to just, this book just, it's my baby. I stamped it twice. I stamped this book twice with my book stamp because it literally, it's literally everything. There are so many like underlines, annotations, hearts. Just, this story is just so well done. And if you like the summary that I gave, you need to 100% pick this damn book up. I know people get so sick of hearing about this book, but this book was so good. It was just so good. I was not disappointed at all. I've been disappointed a few times. I was disappointed a few times in 2018 for anticipated reads. So I was a little bit nervous picking this one up because I was like, you know what? I am sick and tired of being so excited for a book only for it to let me down. So I was scared to pick this one up. But this book did not let your girl down. It was so good. It made me cry. I think all my favorite books made me cry. So it just drew so much emotion from me. And if you haven't read this book, you need to read it. And then read it again. The next book that I have on my favorites list for 2018 was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. And this damn book, I have a physical copy, so let me grab it. It's somewhere over here. I read this book in a day. I read this book while I got my stomach tattooed. Like, it nobody could stop me from reading this damn book. It was so freaking good. I think this was one of my first thrillers, and I picked it up because I heard Naya Reads and Smiles talking about it in one of her vlogs, and she was like, she finished it in like less than a few hours because it was just so good. And she couldn't have been more right. Like, this book literally gives you no real, this is the synopsis, this little tiny little paragraph. Like, it doesn't really give you much to go on, so you're going into this story like blind, pretty much. Like, it doesn't give you much information, it doesn't give you much backstory. You're just going into the story ready to just dive in. Like, you don't really know much about it. This was one of my first like thrillers that I read, and it was just so good. There's no good point to put this book down because it's just like you want to know what is going on. When a book starts with a question, you can't put it down because you're just like, I want to know the answer to my question. Like, I want to know what the hell is going on. So it's hard to grab thrillers and finish them in a few days because they're just so, they just leave you on the edge of your seat. And this is one of the books that left me on the edge of my seat. I absolutely loved it. A lot of people had problems with the way that the writing was. They felt it was too like choppy, like it was too many periods or too many commas or whatever. It felt a little poetic, like the way the writing was. It was like, it was a little choppy. But I'm so used to poetry because I grew up reading my mom's poems. This didn't bother me at all. The confusion made me even happier to read because I just wanted to know what was going on. Because it was just so many questions from the jump. From the beginning of the book, you have so many questions. So it was just great. I absolutely love this book. And it's just giving me all the feels. And it's short too. So this book follows a family who visits their private estate together every summer. These kids are rich, they're carefree, and they're full of adventure, until the night of an accident where a revolution changes everything. The end result is brokenness, lies, deception, and constant question of what happened the night of the accident. It's better to go into this book blinded without knowing anything than to have a real huge description of it. So if you haven't picked this book up, pick it up. It's short, it's good, it's a thriller. You'll probably finish it in a day. One of my faves. Okay, so the next book that I have for my favorites of 2018 was It's Not Over Till You Win by Les Brown. And this is kind of like a motivational-esque lifestyle advice motivationer type book. Like, this book really just kind of riles you up to like give you the opportunity to see that we all fall down, we get back up, we figure it out. That's the way life goes. So this book was really good. It definitely gave me a ton of motivation. 2018 was rough for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, and it just feels really good to hear someone else's story and hear how they failed or how they fell down and how they got back up or why they got back up or just everything. It's just really good to have the connection of failure, because it's like everybody fails sometimes and everybody has hard times. So listening to Les Brown talk about his life journey and everything that went on with him, and still becoming successful and still being driven to be more powerful and be a better him, was really great. And I listened to this one on audiobook. I love the audiobook because his storytelling voice is just everything. His laughter is everything, and it was short, it was quick, and it was great. So this book follows the journey of Les Brown, who has experienced a ton of trials and tribulations throughout his life. From his failed TV show, his life crisis, his mother passing, financial issues, and keeping faith and believing in himself despite it all. Les Brown is determined to show you that you too can get it together. So I listened to this book just for motivation, so I checked out one of his audiobooks and I absolutely loved it. My mom actually met Les Brown and she was super excited about it, so when I told her I listened to one of his books, she was super happy. But it ended up being one of my favorite reads of 2018 because it was truthful, it was powerful, it was raw, it was real, it was fun, and it was sad. It was just everything. It was quick, and like I said, I loved his voice. Like, he just has like a really like hearty laughter and like a really powerful voice, so it was really nice to listen to him and listen to everything that he went through and how he got through all of it. So the next 3 books I have on my list, I am combining together and pretending that it's one book, so shh, don't tell on me. This little combination is going to be the Wayward Children series, and these are all really short books. The first book I listened to on audiobook, so I don't have a physical copy of that one, but the second and the third one I got physical copies of used, so they were like $3 and I was super happy about it. I fell in love with the story. I listened to the audiobook during Booktubeathon, and it was just a great experience. It was short, it was a fun adventure, it had so many little woke quotes that I was just living for. So I'm sure this is another series that's been floating around on BookTube a lot, and a lot of people have been talking about it, but it's well deserved, okay? This one's well deserved. So this book series follows the journey of children that have stumbled upon entryways to different worlds, and after feeling at home at the worlds they discover, they end up going back to the regular world. To cope with this return, there is a boarding school for all these children to go to. Eleanor West's home for wayward children. Eleanor is the owner of this school and has also traveled to her own world on numerous occasions, so she understands their yearning for wanting to belong or really just go back to the world they found. These short books follow how they deal with being back and also what to do if they got the chance to go back someday. Each world is different and each child is different. The journeys are fun, dark, twisted, and really make you wish you had your own world to go to. Like I said, every single world is completely different. Every child is different. Some of the worlds are like dark and have like vampires or skeletons, and some of the worlds are more fairy-like, or some of the worlds are like a candy land. Some have mermaids, and like every single world that the child went to is like completely different, but it fits to them. It fits to who they are. And it gives them a sense of belonging, so when they get taken away from those worlds and they end up back in the misery of the real world, they're just like, wait. So it has so many quotes in it that just really make you think. All the characters are pretty complex, they're really interesting, it's a very diverse group of characters, and it just makes it even better. I'm really excited to pick up the 4th book. I haven't gotten it yet, so I'm definitely ready to grab that one. And Shannon McGuire has definitely mentioned that she's going to continue on the series until people don't want it to end. So keep it on. Let's go. Bring more books. Like, nobody's going to object against this. But for that series, pretty much every book I gave it about 4 stars, and I love them all. So the next book on my list for 2018 is Heartless by Marissa Mayer, and this book was awesome. I love this book. I was stuck between a 3 and a 4 star, but honestly this one definitely deserved a 4 star. Your girl is such a fan of a villain backstory. Like, I love a villain backstory. I love to know how a villain became who they are, how they became so powerful, or how they became so hateful of a certain subject, or how they feel about something. I love backstories on villains, and this was a backstory on the Red Queen. So the Queen of Hearts is known for being a terror in Wonderland, but what was her story beforehand? Heartless tells her journey of how she became the Red Queen herself. Her name is Catherine, and all she ever wanted to do was bake and own her own shop, but her parents have other plans for her. A courtship that will lead them in the spotlight of royalty, and baking just won't cut it. She's used to being desired by many people in Wonderland, but when she meets Jest, she experiences desire on her own accord. This book follows the non-logical world of Wonderland. Catherine's story is full of secrets, strength, loss, mystery, love, and prophecies that cannot be avoided. Heartless was really well done. I loved the backstory of Catherine as the main character. I loved the depiction of baking and cooking and all the little characters that are from Wonderland. I loved the love interest. I loved the prophecies. It was a little creepy at times. It was a little weird. It just got really good. Like, it felt like I was getting like the dark version of Wonderland and the twisted version of Wonderland, and it was just so good. I love her retellings. Like, her retellings are usually okay for me, but this one was one of my favorites because you get to see the breakdown of why the Red Queen is the Red Queen. It was so fun. It felt like a fairy tale, but a dark one. I absolutely loved it. I really want to reread it now that I've already finished it because I want to go in knowing a little bit more than I did the first time, so some of the things that I was confused on will probably be cleared up. I gave that one 4 stars. Well deserved. The next book I have on my list is A Night of Cake and Puppets by Lonnie Taylor, and this book was a companion book to Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, and it was just so precious. It had the cutest little like pictures, and it just was everything. So I believe her husband did the pictures and she wrote the story, and it was really short. It was sweet. It was all shown within like one night. It's like a one-night date. So this book is the companion book of 2 characters from the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series. Karud's sassy best friend Susanna is known for always speaking her mind, and she doesn't shy away from the magic and disaster that Karud always lands herself in. As Karud's true journey unfolds and her life is flipped upside down, Susanna is experiencing something she never had before: being nervous and timid. When it comes to Mick, a violinist who Susanna likes and has been trying to talk herself into speaking to, she realizes the best way to catch his eye: magic. Susanna takes means into her own hands and goes after the boy of her dreams with a map and instructions that lead to a night full of cake and puppets. Like I said, this book is just really short. It's really sweet. It just follows how pretty much how Susanna got Mick into her grasp, and it just has the cutest little pictures. It's just so fun. It's so precious, and just makes you love them. It definitely was a cute read. I give it 5 stars. I absolutely love the freaking pictures in this. So if you haven't read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series, you should definitely grab the series and also grab the spinoff. So the next book that I have on my list is a book that has been all over BookTube, and I've talked about this book in a few of my videos, and obviously it's going to be one of my favorites. It was really a powerful book. It was really well done. It was just perfect. I loved absolutely everything about this book. Almost everybody has read this book, and 90% of the BookTube community loves it. It was made into a movie, which I still have not seen yet. I really just love the book so much. I do want to go and see the movie. This book follows the main character, Star, who on a night drive with a childhood friend, Khalil, she gets pulled over by a cop. The stop shortly after results in Khalil being wrongfully shot and killed. Star is from a black neighborhood where, despite some dysfunction, it is full of togetherness. However, she attends a preppy suburban school. Split between 2 worlds and 2 versions of herself, Star tries to understand what will bring her friend justice and how she should act on it. After the night of this event, news anchors start to make assumptions of Khalil and drag his name through the mud, which results in Star wondering, how can I bring to light? It's not just about Khalil's death, it's about his life. It's about the fact that he lived, and it's about the fact that it matters. Alright, so like I said, this book is really popular on BookTube. It actually sparked a lot of BookTube drama, but that's beside the point. We're going to give it its honor in this video. This book was so emotional for me. It was given to us during a time where this is actually happening in our country. This is happening in our community. This is happening to people's children, to people's brothers, to people's uncles, to people's mothers that are black. And it's sad because it's true, and it's sad because it's very real, and for me it was really raw because obviously I'm black. So I drew from the story as I should, and it affected me in a really emotional way because every time I see something like this happen on the news and justice isn't brought forth, it tears a part of me out of my soul. Like it hits so hard home that it's hard. Like, it's hard to see people within your same culture being treated the way that these people are treated, and not given the justice that they obviously deserve. So for me, it was really emotional, but it was really powerful, and it really helped me learn how to cope with this type of trauma. You really can't ever get over it, but it really was just so well done. The characters were so well done. The family aspect of this book was perfect. It was just everything. I loved everything about Star. I loved everything about her journey. I loved everything about her strength. I just loved the fact that you got to see from start to finish the way that this is happening for other people in this country, and that this is a really real thing. And I just loved it so much. This book was everything to me. It was sad and made me cry, but it made me laugh too. It reminded me a lot of my family and a lot of things that happened in my community growing up. It was really powerful, and I'm just so thankful for having this book. So yeah, obviously I gave that book 5 stars, but let's move on to the next book, which is a book that I have talked about so much and everybody's talked about so much. But you know what? The damn book is good, so I'm going to talk about it again. One of my ultimate favorites of 2018 was Children of Blood and Bone. And this book, although I do have a physical copy of it, I also listened to it on audiobook, and the storytelling of this book just brought me so much nostalgia because my mom gave the best storytelling moments. And when I listened to this story, and just the accents and just the way it was executed was so perfect. This was one of the first audiobooks that literally engulfed me in the story. It just gave me life. It was so much easier for me to get through it because I was a little bit intimidated by how big this book is, but obviously your girl is a fantasy geek, so I wasn't too nervous, but I was just like, when am I gonna have time to finish this? So listening to the audiobook definitely helped a lot. So this book follows Zelie, a teenage magi who was stripped of her magic before even being given the opportunity to experience it. In the land of Orisha, magic is forbidden, and all magic dwellers were brutally murdered by the command of the king. To rid the lands of all magic, this included her mother. Now, in a magicless land, Zelie continues to bite her tongue as she's verbally attacked and belittled by the king's guards. But after a journey to the market, she runs into Amari, a princess who has run away with a very prized possession. With the help of this princess, Amari, Zelie, her brother, and her lioness travel the lands running from the capture of Vanan, the prince and the brother of Amari, determined to bring forth exactly what his father seeks, stopping magic from having the possibility of returning. This story is full of adventure, justice, magic, heartbreak, and very powerful characters. This book was everything. This book was really, really popular because the fact that it has an all-black cast and the cover is just giving me life. I'm so blown away that this is her debut novel and that she's coming out with a series, and I just can't wait for the next book to come out. I think it comes out in March, and I'm just counting down the damn days. I have a countdown for it. I'm ready. My soul is ready. This book is just full of magic. It's just full of African folk tales and myths and just everything. The characters are so damn well done. The magical dwellers is so well done. The structure of the magi is so damn well done, and it definitely had little picks on society. It definitely was really powerful in its own way. I love the characters. I love the journey. I love the adventure. The magic was life. I absolutely love this damn book, and it was just everything to me. I loved it so much. I can't wait for the next one. If you haven't picked this one up, definitely get it. I gave this one 5 stars for obvious reasons, and I actually did a cosplay review of this book, so if you want to see me go into more details and completely geek out, I will leave the link in the description box below, or you can check it out on my channel. So that is it for my favorites video, and future editing me is already crying inside because I feel like this damn video is going to take me forever to edit. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if any of these 12, 15 books that I listed are books that you absolutely love. Give me one of your favorite books that you read for 2018. I know. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Always remember, read a book, keep your life interesting, and I will see you guys next time.